Hi guys, Jocelyn here from the ketoathlete.org. On this episode today, we're going to talk about reasons why you might not have been successful on a ketogenic diet. Today's episode is brought to you by Keto BHB Salt Boost. This is from my own line of custom small batch formulated supplements. My BHB Keto Salt Boost can be used to give you a little boost of energy before a workout. The exogenous ketones can help you through the adaptation phase when you're new to a ketogenic diet, or it can help you get back on the wagon after a cheat day. So let's dive in. When someone says, I tried a ketogenic diet and it didn't work for me, what does that mean? I'm going to put the lack of success into one of three categories. Either just felt bad, like low energy, couldn't stay with it because they just didn't feel good. Number two might be couldn't lose weight. A lot of people undertake a ketogenic diet with the goal of weight loss. Or if you're measuring blood ketones and you just never actually achieved nutritional ketosis. So why couldn't they get into nutritional ketosis? So let's start with the number one most common reason I see people giving up on a ketogenic diet is just being too impatient and not giving it enough time. The process of keto adaptation starts at around 2 weeks. You'll feel probably the worst by around week 3 or 4. And then it's complete somewhere between 4 and 12 months. So the process actually takes quite a while. Around 2 weeks, you'll start to produce ketones in the liver, but you don't yet have the cell surface transporters to get those ketones into the cell, and you don't have the enzymes there yet to break it down and turn it into energy. So while those ketone bodies are there and they're floating around but can't be used, they're being excreted by the kidneys. Ketone bodies are organic acids, so they compete for the same excretory pathways as uric acid. Uric acid is a normal breakdown byproduct of metabolism, but the ketone bodies will win. They'll displace that uric acid excretion. So while your uric acid levels are climbing, you'll feel kind of weird, especially as an athlete. You would notice maybe some dips in energy or performance on your workouts. That will be its worst around week 3 or 4, and then starts to normalize and return back to normal by about 3 or 4 months. As those cell surface transporters get upregulated and your enzymes get upregulated and you're using those ketone bodies for energy, you'll return back to your normal excretion of your uric acid. So if you tried a ketogenic diet and you gave up by week 3 or 4, you just have to know that you were just on the cusp of the good stuff starting and returning back to normal energy levels. So as a cautionary tale, if you're planning to undertake a ketogenic diet or the process of fat adaptation, make sure you're patient, give yourself time. As an athlete, if you're going to do that, make sure you're doing that during an off season or where you don't have any pressing competitions or need to perform. Those 3 or 4 or 6 months will come with some ups and downs and dips in energy and performance as your body normalizes and learns how to use alternate fats and ketones for fuel. The next most common reason I would see people be not successful in a ketogenic diet is chronic stress from either lack of sleep, not sleeping enough, or chronic emotional stress from the pressures of life, work, school, kids, whatever that is for you. Chronic sleep deprivation, that's anything less than 7 hours a night, will elevate your blood glucose. It elevates stress hormones. It elevates cravings for easy energy, so processed carbohydrates and sugar. So any of those things will make it harder to be successful or stick to your ketogenic diet. If you're constantly having sugar cravings, it'll make it harder to stick to it. If you have chronically elevated stress hormones or chronically elevated blood glucose from those stress hormones, you'll have higher insulin levels. When insulin is high, insulin and ketogenesis are counter-regulatory. When insulin is high, you can't produce ketones. You need insulin to fall to initiate that process. So as long as insulin is high, you won't be able to adequately get into ketosis. So if you're planning to undertake a ketogenic diet, I would first advise you to get your sleep habits in order. Make sure you've made your schedule so that you can properly sleep at least 8 hours a night and that you have undertaken some strategies to manage your stress. So maybe you need to take some things off your plate first. Maybe you need to just develop better strategies. Maybe it's meditating. Maybe it's a quiet bike ride. Maybe use exercise to manage your stress, some time in the sauna. Whatever it is, there needs to be some strategies to keep your chronic stress under control. The next most common reason I would see people feel unsuccessful on a ketogenic diet would be not properly managing their electrolytes. The Keto Flu, as it's called, and this will often happen early on in the first few weeks. Insulin, the hormone that's secreted in response to high blood glucose or high dietary carbohydrate, signals the kidneys to retain sodium. So when we drop the dietary carbohydrate, we drop our insulin levels, which is a good, healthy part of the goal. But we'll start secreting more sodium, and it will take some potassium and some magnesium with it. So this flux, this electrolyte fluctuation that happens in the first few weeks can give you some symptoms of like nausea, sort of brain fog, generally, kind of dizziness, like postural dizziness when you stand up and you get lightheaded. All of that can be completely avoided by just aggressively supplementing electrolytes. So you need to make sure getting enough salt, enough sodium. You can do that with bouillon cubes dissolved in a cup of warm water, and you can just sip on it. You can do that with sodium tablets. They're 1 gram each, and you can just swallow them. You can use supplements designed to help manage electrolytes on a ketogenic diet, like Elemental Labs, the LMNT sodium supplements. Highly recommend those. We carry them in my gym. Aggressively supplementing your salt and potassium and magnesium intake in those early days of the ketogenic diet will completely eliminate that keto flu. The next most common reason I would see people be unsuccessful on a ketogenic diet would be still eating processed vegetable oils. So a ketogenic diet being very high fat, moderate protein, and very low carb, if those fats that you're taking in are processed seed oils, such as corn, canola, soybean oil, safflower, rice bran, those processed vegetable oils are very high in an omega-6 fat called linoleic acid. Linoleic acid is basically a signal from nature that it's fall, the time when you would most normally be eating abundant nuts and seeds. And it's time to prepare for winter, essentially. So omega-6 linoleic acid acts on the endocannabinoid system to increase your appetite. So literally the same way that cannabis gives you the munchies, so does linoleic acid. It lowers your body temperature, putting you in a state of like partial hibernation called torpor. So preparing you to have, lower energy expenditure during the winter. It reduces the amount of available ATP. ATP is the energy currency of all of your cells. So it leaves less energy available. So you just move around less. And so through those processes of making you eat more and expend less energy, it can make it very, very difficult, if not impossible, to lose weight or mobilize your body fat out of storage if you're still eating a high amount of vegetable oils. Where vegetable oils can hide on your ketogenic diet: salad dressings and sauces. Check the label. Almost all of them will be made with soybean oil or canola oil. Fried foods like chicken wings. So maybe you go out to the pub with your buddies and you're like, I'm going to order the low carb option on the menu. I'm going to get just chicken wings, but those things are fried in probably soybean oil. It might be in mayonnaise, maybe margarine. I hope to God nobody's still eating margarine, but margarine is all processed seed oils. Or maybe it could come from, snacking on too many nuts, although that's like less likely to be the major factor. So make sure you're watching out for those processed seed oils. You're completely eliminating them from your diet and replacing them with healthy, natural, saturated fats, butter, cream, cheese, if you tolerate dairy, using beef tallow, pastured lard, whole eggs, so that you're getting your fats from good quality, healthy animal sourced fats. The last one that can inhibit progress or success on a ketogenic diet is too many processed keto treats. With the popularity of the ketogenic diet these days, there's now lots of foods in the grocery store, lining the shelves at Costco that say keto this, keto that, all over them. Buyer beware. There is no regulatory process on using the word keto on a packaged food. Most of them will use a little marketing gimmick where they will make the serving size artificially small, and then they can report a small amount of carbohydrate or net carbohydrate. So maybe the serving size, there's one I like to use it's a chocolate pecan pumpkin seed little nugget thing at Costco. The serving size is 20 grams. And the amount of carbohydrate per serving is 4 grams. So 20 grams is like a tiny, tiny little amount. And that means that food is 20% carbohydrate, right? Which is way too much. And it would be very, very difficult to stick to just this teeny little handful. Almost definitely anybody's going to take more of that in. Often processed keto treats will be a combination of high-fat foods with artificial sweeteners. So it's a hyper-palatable combo of what's called sweet fat, where it just tickles the brain in just the right way that makes you want to eat as much as you can in a very unregulated way. It basically dysregulates your natural appetite suppressing mechanisms. So it kind of like defeats the purpose of a ketogenic diet, which one of the main advantages is that keto naturally suppresses the appetite and makes it easy to eat a normal amount of food and never feel like you need to overeat unless you're eating sweet fat. So watch out for processed keto treats with artificially small serving sizes, a combo of sweet fat. Even if the sweet is coming from non-caloric artificial sweeteners, it can still have that regulatory appetite dysregulation thing. And then there are some deceptive labels. I've posted about some of them before. Well, they'll market themselves as low sugar, or they'll be using novel food products that are maybe chains of glucose together so that it's not technically a sugar. Now it's a starch. But I've tested some of them wearing a continuous glucose monitor and seen some of the highest, most aggressive spikes in my blood glucose from servings that were supposedly only even 20 grams of net carbs, which should be enough to, especially as a weight stable athletic person, should be enough to stay under the radar. But I got wild blood sugar spikes from some of those supposedly low carb or low sugar foods. So buyer beware. You pretty much need to eat real food. You have to eat whole, unprocessed foods, focus on good quality meat and fat, sprinkle in a few above ground vegetables and some nuts and seeds. And that's pretty much the key to being successful on a ketogenic diet. Thanks for watching.